BH90210. And oh, that's a go for launch.
That's a go. Repeat, that's a go. Hello again, and welcome everybody back to the podcast. I am half of the co-hosting dynamic duo that hosts Pilot Pass. Del, are you the other one?
No, I pull double my weight here. So I am twice the
That's fair.
podcasting, which makes me 4 times the podcasting host you are.
That is fair. I understand that, even though I do
That's
2
math.
shows and you do 1. Oh, well,
Barely. I crawl in to do it.
there you go. Well, welcome back to the show again. My name is Matthew. That is Del that was talking to me on the other end. And today, as Del counted down, we are doing a show called BH90210.
Matt, would this be a show called Beverly Hills 90210?
No, sir. That would
Oh, it's
confuse it with
not.
the original. This is the new version.
I see.
Everything changes, but everything stays the same.
That's right.
Del-
It's a circle. Life's a circle, my friend. It's a flat circle.
It is definitely a flat circle. Del, you were new to the show, as in you were not a fan of this when we were younger. You were watching, probably
My family watched.
Columbo, I would guess. Probably what
I was almost certainly watching Columbo and The Simpsons around this time. Yes.
Yes. So instead of 90210, that's what you're watching. This is the new version. We're not talking about the original. We are talking about BH90210, the remake, the reimagining, the redoing, the retelling. Del, tell the people what this show is about.
Confusingly, at the end of 19 years from the ending of Beverly Hills 90210, the cast are getting back together for a 30-year reunion. Assuming that has something to do with math and how long the show ran. But at this 30-year reunion, the old flames, feuds, and feelings are reignited. I can only assume because I don't know what they were. There's a peach pit. And there's a guy who didn't come back because he passed away at some point between now and then. And
Joe E. Tata is his name. I don't even have that
full extent. I thought it was Luke Perry.
Oh, well, Luke Perry also, but I think Joey Tata is. He's the Peach Pit guy.
Oh, well, he's the main guy. Yeah, right. The show's about him. So,
well, we could debate that all day. Actually, the first episode was about Jason Priestley's character and his sister coming to Beverly Hills. I love that I have to explain the
It's like how Central Perk and Friends was about Gunter, the guy who made the coffee.
I see.
Remember him, the main guy from Friends?
So that's the kind of show it's going to be today, huh? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I always make notes for us before we start the show.
I've never seen Friends either, for just everybody out there. I think I've seen one episode.
I can't believe I
knew the name Gunter on that.
I was first day with Friends, first day with 90210. Our notes here, I arrogantly did not put the actor's name next to the character's name, so Del will probably be confused all episode.
I will absolutely. I knew that there's Jason Priestley, right? Is a guy who was not Luke Perry, and he played. Man, I'm going to go on a limb here. Either Donna or Steve or Dylan or Brandon or Brenda or Kelly or David.
Nailed it.
Okay.
I can't wait till we get to the part of the episode where I ask you which character you are and you fumble through trying to figure out which character.
It's Jason Priestley, I know, because he's the handsome one.
Well, some people would say Luke Perry would have been the handsome one. Again, I understand.
Well, you're right. I'm probably both. No, you're right. I'm probably both.
Well, I'm going to admit right off the top that I've always been like David. Unfortunately, that's just the way that it is. We dressed the same when I was younger. I'm not married to Megan Fox now, but I love my wife. So, it's a trade-off. We're basically the same is what I'm saying.
That's what life is, just a series of disappointing trade-offs.
Boy, don't I know it. That's why I'm here today.
That's why both of us are working with each other.
No
we both
kidding.
Could do better, Matt.
Can we?
Maybe.
Okay.
I don't care enough to try and find out and work hard.
I think by the end of this episode, we're going to find out if this meta remake of 90210 is better. But let's start right off at the top. First impressions of this random show that you've never seen before. What did you think?
Honestly, I was kind of engaged. I had no idea that it was going to be so meta. I thought, it's just all the people from 90210 doing a 30 reunion. But then I started noticing they were referring to each other by their actor names, not their character names. And at least I knew enough of the actors like Brendan Fraser and people like that, where I was like, okay, I know that that's that actor, and that's like Paul Walker or whoever, that wasn't a character. But then I was like, oh, I started to kind of catch on that they were at this reunion for the characters, and now they hate these characters since it's been 3 decades. Um, and so I thought the show was okay. It's just going to be a show about the behind the scenes, kind of like the Gene Simmons show was a
Oh, right.
attempted behind the look at what it was like to be Kiss, although it was very scripted. Clearly, this is scripted as well, but it was supposed to be a behind the scenes look at what it was like dealing with all these people working on a famous show. But then it gets to the end, and this is where I really, really enjoyed it. Tori Spelling, who is listed at the beginning as the creator and executive producer, was, if I do remember this part about it, it's that her dad created the show, right? Aaron Spelling.
Yes.
And put her in it. And that was kind of a big thing that he put his own daughter in something. But then he famously left her out of his will, right? Like she got none of the money from the show. And so in the show, she's broke doing reality television called like Ucho's Enough, or what is it, like Eating Beans, or what is it?
I don't even remember what it's called, but yes, it was
Eating
ridiculous.
Beans. Yeah, what was it? Or Spelling Beans. That's what it was. So she's like, I can't keep doing this, and Shannon Doherty's famously not there. I actually knew who she was. She's not there at the reunion. But some of the other people are still kind of friends. They know each other. The guy that plays, not Luke Perry, but the other handsome guy, the rugged individual, he's supposed to be like a TV director at this point, and he punches out one of the people he's worth, which he is. Okay, good. So you're seeing behind the lives, obviously, written, fictionalized. But what was really clever is at the end, Tori Spelling's like, we need something else. I need something to bring my life out of this because I can't keep making reality shows over and over again. And her kids are sitting there watching an old Beverly Hills 90210 episode because her husband was like, well, they asked where mommy went. I told them you were at the convention. Right. They didn't understand what that was. So I let them watch a few of the old episodes so that, they would get an idea of what mommy used to do. And it kind of clicks. This is what we should do. We should relaunch because everybody's doing it. Saved by the Bell. This would be a perfect time to do a reboot for like Netflix or Hulu or something. And it's great because it's a behind the scenes look at these people 30 years later as they get the idea to create the very show you're watching. And I thought that was clever. I was like, good job, Spelling Girl, Spelling B, Arthur, Spelling Bee, whatever. I was like, good job, because that was like, she took something her dad made and cut her out of and then made it her own, and I got to say it's clever. It's 30 years down the line. People loved these characters. It even, I really wasn't in it, but I know people loved these characters. And then there was such drama behind the scenes. I remember reading on the tabloids and stuff all the time, Tori Spelling doing this with her dad, or Shannon, this person were fighting. And I like that it takes all of that, the original show, the tabloid stuff, and it puts it all back together under this new framework. I gotta admit, that's you got me hooked there. Just as a creator, as a writer, that's a good idea right there. Whether they pull it off or not, I can't really say, but the pilot itself worked very well.
As a member of the subreddit of 90210, here's what I can say to you. First of all, somebody else hired her. He didn't hire her. He didn't want to hire her because of the family thing.
Oh, okay.
He did leave her out of the will, but I think that was family and personal situations more than, anything to do with the show. And she did this new show with Jenny Garth. So I think they both EP'd the new show.
Oh, nice. Okay, good.
They brought the idea together, and they were really the ones that kind of got the rest of the cast to buy into the idea. Because as you can imagine, they've been pitched, let's redo 90210 for the last, 30 years. So they just keep saying no until an original interesting idea came along. And I think that this is perfect for that.
Well, I think it pairs very well with Saved by the Bell because it's the same idea of, people loved these people, decades ago. And it wasn't until an original idea came along. Let's not just rehash it. Let's do something with the fact that everybody's moved on with their life, with the fact that these people have real lives behind these characters, but even behind the scenes of the tabloids, and to not only take the show, because obviously what we would kind of consider a little schlocky nowadays, they can play for laughs now. And television shows are just completely different. You don't have that 4-camera setup, you know. You don't have everything takes place on a set in front of a live studio. And it's not exactly that's what this was, but the idea that you can now reimagine it as a single camera setup. The humor can be faster paced. The humor can be quicker delivered. You know, the writing can be snappier because you're not having to wait for every person in the audience to kind of follow along. Besides the fact that you don't have to tune in at a certain time every night or afternoon for, like, Saved by the Bell. You know, you can binge it. If you missed a joke, go back and watch it again. If you didn't get the reference, go back and watch it, or go on Wikipedia and look up why that joke is funny. And I think that's the reason some of the new reboots that take things in a completely different direction really work, in a way that if you just put them back on the air with older characters, it just wouldn't hold up as well.
As a member of the Beverly Hills 90210 fan club, what I can say about this is
Go ahead and admit it.
the bravery of these actors to be able to do this. I mean, yes, these aren't really who they are, but there's a version of them. As you know, Tori Spelling there's a version of her in this. Jenny Garth, there's a version of her in this. And they didn't have to do that. They did not have to expose themselves like that. Jason Priestley comes off as an asshole, you know, a lot of times in this, and he didn't have to do that.
It's a little like Curb Your Enthusiasm,
Sweet.
where they sometimes, you know, they'll let Ted Danson, you know, in Curb Your Enthusiasm, sometimes very famous actors play characters, and sometimes very famous actors play versions of themselves, and sometimes they play versions of themselves which are total dickheads. Like Ted Danson is one of the sweetest guys on earth, apparently, to work with, but in Curb Your Enthusiasm, he's the self-serving, you know, kind of backstabbing a-hole, you know, who is great because he gets to play a version of himself that he's not in real life. And sure, that can be funny when you're doing it just for laughs, but I think you're right. They're taking it more upon themselves to open themselves up in a show like this. Because they are really poking, you know, fun at themselves and how they were represented in tabloids and stuff like that. Whereas in Curb, you know, sure, the guy who played Booger from Revenge of the Nerds can play, you know, the guy who left his laptop sitting someplace. You know, that's fine. Or, you know, I'll pick any of the number of characters, you know, Jeff Green or something like that. And famous people. But then when you have somebody like JB Smoove, who kind of leans into a completely artificial role that really is who he is, and they just slap a new name on it, that's great too. But you rarely see something like this where they're allowing you to use their real name and the real kind of trashiness of what their life went through to put these together. It was almost as if instead of, you know, Saved by the Bell, Dustin and Diamond went off to the side and created his own, you know, show where he was allowed to be the guy who was in the band and made the pornos and was a little sleazy and everything, but he had fun with it too. You know, I mean, Larry David is famously a bit of a dick and a jerk, but he's, you know, from all accounts, kind of a decent guy and a good dad. But yeah, I think you're right there. It didn't even occur to me that they really are being brave with this, honestly.
It surprises me that they did that. But we're going to play Did You Know right now. I could do this a lot with this show, but did you
this
know?
Will also be no for me.
Gabrielle Carteris, who plays Andrea in the show, is the legit, real leader of the Screen Actors Guild right now. She's so much so
know that
she just recently kicked Donald Trump out of the Screen Actors Guild. That was her doing.
Oh, really? No. Yes. Well, I like her more now. But no, I had no idea. So
another one of those meta things that's in the show that it's just like, that can't be real. And then you realize that it's real. And
oh, that's right. Because that's right. She is that in the show. That didn't even occur to me that could be a real thing. I thought that was a clear joke. Wow, that makes that even better. So there were jokes that I definitely wasn't getting that as a fan you would have loved even more. And I really enjoyed the show and I thought it was funny. So yeah, I guess, well, we already know where I'm going to say that. And if you're a fan of the show, I think you kind of have to see this.
It was super sad that this did not get renewed for a second season. I would have really loved
to see what
they did.
Hold on. But Walker, which we already talked about last week, already got for like 18 seasons.
Mm-hmm.
Not a single ass whooping in that entire show, by the way.
I imagine that it's a little cheaper to shoot Walker than it is 90210.
Yeah, probably.
That would be my guess, especially in Austin versus, you know, you got to shoot. Well, I think they shot in Toronto. They didn't shoot in LA. So it was a little different.
That makes sense. Yeah. Canada's pretty cheap to go up there and shoot. Plus, mainly I would think on Walker, it's a big chunk of that is just spent on the peanut butter to get the horses' mouths to move like they're talking.
That's probably true.
If I'm confusing that with another show, I might.
No, you nailed
it. Doesn't matter. Okay, perfect.
Do you remember any of the promotion for this show at all? As
None
we're
other than it was coming back. That was it.
So you see
Literally.
the stuff behind me. That's a lot of trailers for the show.
Right.
As we roll. So even at one point they had like this dollhouse and they're like pretending to be the characters, and it's just I thought that they did such a great job with the weirdness kind of how they're advertising and how they're presented to people. They had a pop up in LA for the Peach Pit where you could go and eat, and it's the people were there. And while it was probably $20 hamburgers, it was still a really cool experience to people that got to go. I think.
I'm really starting to get behind this idea of, reboots used to be this thing where you're like, oh God, can you quit dredging up the past? Think of something new, Hollywood. But you know what? If you can take old property and think of something new to do, it's like even DuckTales. I was as a huge DuckTales. See, you're 90210. I'm DuckTales. I was so worried when they relaunched that in 2017. And instead, they did something amazing with it. They took these little episodic things and tied it together, and made you care about stories that were from the comics and these original artists like Carl Barks and Don Rosa. That if you were a real DuckTales aficionado, were really rewarding to watch, but also it was just a better version of the show. And so maybe there isn't anything wrong with relaunching a property, provided you get the right people, and the right intellect behind it to do something new and creative with it. I mean, look, we've done Shakespeare how many times? At least 6 times, right? We've done Shakespeare plays
Probably 7.
As a people. Yeah, maybe 7. So, there's always something to be done. I mean, how many times can you redo Hamlet as the owner of a company who doesn't leave his son in the company? Okay, we get it. We saw the Ethan Hawke movie, but we're still redoing those old stories because I think, even kind of like the monomyth or something like that, that there's something inherently simple about some stories and even how characters relate to each other that, you're always going to find somebody who's clever enough is going to find something new, even if it's just using the same character names, you know?
I'm going to ask myself a question, and then I'm going to ask you the question. My question to myself is there any parts that don't work in this? And my answer is no, obviously. So I'm going to throw it to you now and say, were there any parts that don't work, keeping in mind that you're talking to the president and CEO of the 90210 fan club?
Okay, the only thing I thought didn't work was had they had Shannon Doherty not show up for the reunion. I'm like, oh, look who they couldn't get for the show. This must have been the one. I know Luke Perry had, passed away, so I know they weren't getting him. But I was like, oh, look at it. And then, of course, she makes an appearance where she's like, hi, I'm working on this farm, for pet animals. And she's just showing everybody else up. And she comes off as this real kind of douchey character. I'm like, oh no, they got the one that everybody said they had spats with.
Yep.
And she's even in the show. So there wasn't even a character who was like too good for the show either. They even got that character in. And I think especially as a pilot to introduce it, especially to introduce old content to a new audience, that's exactly who I was. I didn't know who the original cast was, really, other than what I'd seen in the tabloids and some basic stuff. But after this pilot, I knew who the original characters were. I knew their original way they interacted on the show.
Right.
I knew how they acted behind the scenes on the show and behind the tabloids. I had seen how they have grown over 30 years, and I see how they interact with each other now. And to be able to lay out 4 different valid lifestyles, to overlay on these characters in, 30, 45 minutes?
Yeah.
That was a fantastic job to somebody that had no idea what was going on really walking into the show. So I got to say, again, it's not one of those world building like Game of Thrones world buildings, but it is a Game of Thrones, like it is in the sense that you had to learn all this history. It's like you were slogged with backstory to catch up to. And they got you through it in a fun and entertaining way where I feel like, okay, now let's really kick off the story. We got the 30 years in the past. Let's see where it moves. I still haven't watched the next one, but I'll, when I get through a few other shows, I'm probably going to take a crack at this because I want to see where these characters go.
Another meta part of it is the studio head. The great hair lady was Brandon's girlfriend during, I think, season 2. And she burnt down the homecoming float. So she was in there.
I do like how all of them were in a tabloid-esque way. They all get arrested in Las Vegas that night in the pilot. So it's still very trashy. And then and I like that she has that idea. This would be the perfect time to reboot. Not when nobody remembers who we are. Not when people are showing up to a 30-year reunion because we have fans. Look at all the people that are going, oh, these trashy people couldn't even make it through 30 years alive without holding it together. Meanwhile, they all have their own lives. Some of them own private jets and stuff like that. But the idea of like, let's capitalize on the trashiness to build the new show rather than let's capitalize on the nostalgia, which I think is a big problem. A lot of times people just go, hey, remember the thing I liked when I was a kid? Let's just redo it. That's not what they did. They took the change that's happened over 30 years in media, in social media, and the Me Too movement, and how people have been, forced out and then brought back, Harvey Weinstein, stuff like that. And they said, now's a whole new environment to tell some of these stories again. And that's fascinating to me.
This is the question that probably answers a lot of the reasons that it didn't come back for season 2. And my question to you is, who is the audience for this? Besides this guy right here, who's the Facebook fan page CEO, who did they make this for? We asked the same question with Saved by the Bell.
People like me, it'd be people like me and you. Well, people like you who are original fans, but people like me who like seeing stuff torn apart and put back together. Even if it's not perfect, I like seeing what other artists can do with it. I may not like a cover song, by a particular artist, but I'm damn sure if I'm gonna enjoy that cover probably better than I'm gonna enjoy a really song that I hear on the radio that's poppy, just because I want to see what that person did with it. When Jimi Hendrix redid it Along the Watchtower, there was a reason Bob Dylan took that and said, okay, that's mine now. I'm after Jimi Hendrix passed,
sure.
We're going to do that version because it was better. I'm going to always enjoy seeing how an artist reinterprets, because that's all artists do is reinterpret each other. I'm always going to find that endlessly fascinating compared to somebody that just churns out something for $1, or they can just make a photocopy of something and be like, here's another copy, here's another copy, here's another copy. Whoever the guy is that just writes the books that it's like A is for Apple, M is for murder, B is for Bancroft, or whatever it is, that person is just sitting down with a list of letters in a row and going, what murder mystery can I write with it? I don't care about that. What I do care is if someone says, out of these 26 books, I'm David Fincher, and I really like book Q. That has an interesting and fascinating story and premise, and I want to take that and translate that into a visual medium. That's always going to be much, much, much more interesting to me. And I think that's who this show is made for, which is not a good viewing audience if you want to do well.
Nope.
Although, to be fair, things like Arrested Development, were created like that too. Things that were very niche that finally found, like, I could see in 3 years this coming back. I could see it needing to build a cult following. I mean, Family Guy got kicked off after 3 years and then came roaring back. I think and that's one thing with DVD sales and streaming now, is you can kind of give people a taste and go, let's give it 2 years and see how that does. Did anybody care at all? Do we? And maybe that's the other thing, with Walker or something, where they feel like they have to immediately renew it because it's like, we don't have much to get out of this. So drain the bottle, pour every last bit of that out as you can, because the second Walker's over, we don't have anything else to follow it up. Where I think maybe now it is maybe what a lot of companies should be doing. Some of these streaming companies is releasing one season and waiting.
Testing the waters,
Yeah. I mean, I after we talked about WandaVision, I went back and watched it. That show was not at all what I thought it was going to be. But I'll tell you what, I don't want WandaVision next year. I want WandaVision in 3 or 4 years when the Marvel universe has progressed. That now I want to go back to that subsection of that universe and have another story told. It's why, True Detective and stuff is so amazing. It's, you don't have to pour it all at once. Nobody said True Detective had to come out every year. It's not only anthological, you can wait until Pizzolatto has a really good idea and then put that on the screen. Quit kicking out stuff on a timeline and put stuff out when quality hits. And, I could see this being picked up in 2 years, and so maybe we should quit seeing things as being canceled, or renewed so much as is it enduring, and does it have a good shelf life versus is it very forgettable? And I think we're already starting to see that change, but I think the longer and longer we go with streaming services, the more you can rent something for a night or for a weekend, watch all of, Battleship Galactica or whatever, and go, or Firefly. So that was really good. I don't need another of that for another couple of years. I think we're going to continue to see a dramatic shift in that fashion of just wholeheartedly canceled or wholeheartedly renewed.
Live on the air, I'm about to break your heart because True Detective season 4, Nikki Piz is not involved at all.
Yeah,
They're bringing in new writers.
I
and
did
stuff.
heard that. Well, basically, Perry Mason was.
Yeah,
I mean, they should have just called it True Detective 4, aka 1920s, and just done it. Instead, they were like, no, we have to slap a whole new title on it, call it Perry Mason. I mean,
they could have just called it Weird.
That it was. There was nothing. There was him just going, they won't let me use the name True Detective and have something to kick out for money. That was all Perry Mason was. By the way, mini episode, Perry Mason. There you go. That's it. You don't have to watch it now. That was it right there. But
can I quiz you now? Can it be quiz time for the show? Let's see how many actors' names you can guess right.
Okay.
That's their characters' names. I'm going to start with the hard one.
Are you going to try to pair them up, or are you going to like list other real actors and see if I can guess if they're from this show?
That would be too much work. I'm just going to give you a name, and you're going to fail, and then I'm going to give you the right answer.
Okay, I can do that.
Who was the Corvette driving guy named Steve?
I have no idea.
Ian Ziering.
Okay. I know that name. I know who Ian Ziering is. Okay.
Who was the we can sometimes call her the ugly duckling of the show. We've already spoken about her. Her name in the show is Donna. That is
David Arquette.
Tori Spelling. How about the renegade, the man with his own place and his own motorcycle, and his dad blows up, but then he's not really dead? Boom. Dylan is
okay. I knew that one. For some reason, I always tied that character to the Twin Peaks motorcycle guy, and I don't know why I could keep those always paired up in my head.
That's a pretty good comparison, though. I like that. They were brother and sister on the show. They came from Minnesota, and now they're in LA with the hoity-toity people. Brandon and Brenda are.
Wait, is that the character names?
Yes, that is the character names.
Okay, because I was going to say I knew Brandon was the one in the two B's. That would be Scruffy Face McGee. What's his name? Not Luke Perry.
Jason
Hold on,
Priestley.
I won't get this. Jason Priestley. I told you don't give me.
He drove a thing, almost wrecked and died.
And not Shannon Doherty.
Yes, Shannon Doherty.
Okay, so that's what I meant by not was that it was definitely her.
And my love for my entire life, Deanne knows that if Jenny Garth ever gave me any love, that I would leave her. And that's just the way that goes. And that's Kelly on the show. You don't need to know her. I know her, and that's the most important thing. Okay.
Which one was the older girl that played a lesbian in the show who then
Andrea.
She was a lesbian? Okay.
Gabrielle Carteris.
Okay, interesting.
Yes, the SAG leader.
Who is Ian Ziering? Why do I know that name?
He was a Sharknado. That's where you probably know him from.
Oh, okay. And then Luke Perry was from that one joke from the Family Guy. I remember that.
In Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
What? Huh?
He was the representative that came to town for the little girl.
Oh my God, that's right. You're right. Okay, yes, I'll give you that one. You get a point for that one.
The great Luke Perry. You are missed, my friend.
That is right.
All right, we've talked
about on that happy note.
We've discussed it. We need to tell the people. Dale, would you recommend BH90210 The Reunion to the people?
Yeah, as a person who had zero knowledge of the original and didn't really care at all about the original, yeah, I gotta say I would recommend this. Even if you just watch the pilot, I think the pilot itself is interesting enough, and the characters are diverse enough. And to be honest, when they all get arrested for stealing a wedding dress,
it's pretty hilarious. I
liked it. I there were bits where I was laughing. Clearly, I was not getting a joke that other people were getting. And I still enjoyed it. I really did.
Coming from the man who is the one friend still on MySpace for Beverly Hills 90210, I say,
Tom,
watch it and watch it now. Not just because it's 90210, because it was something different. Like they tried something weird, something unique, something that doesn't happen all the time. And I think that they deserve a lot of credit for that. Like I said earlier, they put themselves out there. They tried, and that's all. It's
the opposite of what we talked about when we talked about Walker, when I said Prolifeed, where it was just it's just junk to put on the TV. At least this is trying something artistic, and I gotta give them credit for that.
Del, where can the people find us if they want to find us online?
Right now, it's just pilotpasspod.com.
Yep, that's easy enough. Yep, that's we're all there. All
That
of our
was
connections.
a lot shorter than it was the last couple of years.
Yeah,
Wasn't it?
no, we got it all
Getting
figured
that
out. So you
website
can
was a lot easier. Yeah.
find the grams on there, find the Facebooks, find all of our other stuff. Dell's going to be scanning in his notes from Walker so we can all
I have already
enjoy the
scanned them. I need
greatness
to
of
get
that.
those over. That's true. I have Cobra Kai as well. All the notes that I took from that.
And those will be
So,
on the blog, so you can
I
check
also
all
got for the
that
people
out.
at home. I did get my 20-inch tall booster gold action figure. Came in the mail. Oh look, I hate that every time I show something, it disappears
It
into the
just
green screen.
fades out.
So there he goes. That's him right there.
Very nice. I do have a 90210 poster that I bought it like 2 years ago. We ran into this random head shop in Dallas, and it was hanging on the wall. And I was like,
The
dude,
90208.
I'll give you all the cash in my pocket right now for it. And he was like, okay, weirdo, $5. Here you go. And so I'm very excited about that. I'm
Hey,
sad.
you were there the day I bought 2 versions of Pente for $50 off that dude, that one guy, that board game.
And now I
was
own
like,
one of them.
I literally went online and was like, these are $300 a piece. I'll give you $25 for both, $50 for both. He's like, you got them both for 25. And I was like, okay, just fine.
Sold. And sold on this episode. BH90210.
Sold on this episode. Yes, sir.
Enjoy it, watch it, talk to other people about it. Go on the Reddit. I'll talk to you on the Reddit 90210 feed, and that'll be fun. Anything else for the people before we go?
No, let me ask, would anybody be interested in either a Discord or a Pilot Pass channel on Reddit? A few people have asked me about that so they can go and have them, but apparently Discord is essentially Reddit. I'm trying to get used to it. But a few people have expressed interest so that they can chat with us without having it being real time, like on Facebook or something like that. So if that is something you're interested in, hit us up on Twitter or
Facebook is in real time?
Yeah, I think so. Now I don't know how it works with
I
these
check
kids.
it like once a week. I don't know these kids.
That's
well, I
what
know
I
that the
do
kids
too.
aren't on Facebook. Let's be clear on that. That I'm certain of. Let's get a TikTok
Hey,
together. What do you
I was
say?
about to say, we'll TikTok this up together. You know what? You tick me, I'll talk you, and we'll be done with this.
We're getting reported to the feds if either one of us download TikTok. You know,
I'm telling you, I'm gonna go grab my daughter and I'm gonna be like, here's footage of me and Matt TikTok us and put it out there, make us famous.
Until next time.